I often say that piano playing is a set of skills, and performing publicly is also a special skill that should be developed, in my opinion, as much as technique or sight reading or fluidness in music harmony knowledge. Unfortunately, even in the music conservatories, there are often no courses dedicated to stage presence. And the attitude to stage experience in professional music education is largely straightforwardly simple. We just push children to stage regularly from a very young age, in hope that being on stage will become a natural part of their lives, and they won't freak out about it too much when they will grow up and perform professionally. The topic is very big, but I'll try to turn this video into a bullet list with the goal of making you aware of some important aspects and why your anxiety and stress before a performance is actually a good thing that is supposed to help you. So the success of your stage presence depends on a few things. First of all, of course, I have to start from two obvious thing is your preparation, your learning strategy. I'm not going to speak much about that because most of the content on this channel is dedicated to efficiency of learning, optimizing technique and stuff. For example, you might check out some of my recent videos about how to practice, or another course on complete Brahms exercises where I explain you how to optimize your technique and transform it. But I would just mention a couple of very important things here. So if you're aware of your performance a few months in advance, it's reasonable to break the work on a piece into a few stages with breaks in between, because we remember something best when we have gone through a few sessions of learning, forgetting, repeating, forgetting, repeating. That's why if you have, let's say, 4 months before a concert, it's reasonable to work on a piece really hard for the first month and memorizing it properly. Then give yourself a break for, let's say, 3 weeks. Let yourself forget a piece a little bit and then refresh it for another month. Then give yourself another 2 weeks breaks and repeat the piece again. It might be more beneficial than working on a piece 4 months in a row, actually, paradoxically. Then make a habit of memorizing pieces from the very beginning. Many students play their pieces with a score for months, starting memorizing their pieces as the last stage of work. This is wrong, and such students have more memory slips on average, because you will feel yourself comfortable only when a piece is memorized a while ago, when you got a habit of playing it from memory. And of course, most important, when memorizing, we have to use all 4 principal types of memory, like visual memory, motor memory, ear memory, and analytical memory. And there's a special video where I explain that topic. I really suggest you to familiarize yourself with that and work on developing all 4 types of memory when you learn a new piece. One of the essential stages of preparation to a public performance is run-through sessions. Before any kind of performance, I do many run-throughs in different circumstances, in the morning, in the evening, with a proper warming up, without any warming up. A first few run-through sessions I do for myself, obviously, because they are obviously crap. Also recording myself, of course, and listening to what I have done. And then I obviously organize some run-through for actual people. So I either ask my wife to listen to my program, and it's great because she's a professional pianist, so she's able to give me a constructive and quite critical feedback at times. And here's actually our new project where we have played 2 pianos, so you might check it out. Or, for example, organizing a smaller event for friends and students, for example, before a larger event. Because playing for yourself and to someone else feels very different, and we have to train particularly a skill of not being distracted by other people who might be supportive or bored or critical or simply sleeping during your performance. And you will find out that it's quite simple to play for some people, like, for example, for your grandma who loves you no matter what, and very difficult for other people, for example, for experts who play, whom you respect and who play much better than you. But your ultimate goal is to reach a stage when you would not really care who is listening to you. I know that's difficult and it might be as a distant goal, but nevertheless we have to think about it and try to work into that direction. One skill that I have consciously developed through my many-year performance activities is a stage mode button. So just imagine that you have a magic button in the back of your head, because there is no perfect day for a concert. Sometimes you're excited or unconsciously stressed about the concert, and this is absolutely normal, and you might not be able to sleep night before at all. Sometimes you're sick or tired or had a bad conversation with someone or got your flight delayed and arrived just 2 minutes before the performance, or maybe the worst has happened and you got a terribly overcooked pasta for lunch. Italians will understand me. So life is full of unpredictable disasters. That's why you have a stage mode button. It doesn't matter how you feel backstage, how destroyed you are, how depressed you are or exhausted. But as soon as you step on stage, when you enter the stage, all the bad feelings, all fatigue, exhaustion, illnesses and stuff stay behind. They stay backstage. Because frankly speaking, nobody really cares about how you feel. You are doing your job, and part of your job is to be able to leave behind all your luggage and concentrate on music and be able to appeal to your hidden resources of your body. So it doesn't matter how exhausted you are, but you have to connect to the stream and perform your best no matter what. Heinrich Neuhaus, one of the most prominent teachers of the 20th century, described in his book an interesting case from his teaching experience. He had a very talented student who nevertheless experienced a lot of stress and memory slips during performances. He tried simple tactics with her. Before a performance, he would go with her through the score, making a clear plan, like step-by-step plan of clear artistic goals for each section of the piece. Because what confuses us most and frightens us most is when we don't have a clear idea about what we are doing. But if you create a clear plan, like, okay, this is my first theme, 8 bars, and I have a climax in the bar number 5. So I lead a musical flow toward that bar, and then I make a smooth diminuendo. In the next section, 8 bars, the character changes, so I have to find a special muffled magical color of my piano playing, and then I have another phrase that has this and that character, so I have expressed this and that emotion. And these goals, they might be technical, but best would be if they would also be artistic, when they would include your intention to create a certain character or express a certain feeling or create a certain impression. Your mental preparation is 50% of success of your performance, no matter how ready you are, how much you have practiced, how brilliant is your technique. But if you want to have good results on stage, you have to prepare yourself mentally. This includes many aspects. Let me outline the most frequent challenges and the most important ones for me personally. First of all, stress and anxiety are actually normal. If going on stage for you is as casual as to make coffee, let's say, most probably your public is not going to enjoy your best possible performance. And most of performers have different levels of stage anxiety, of course, this is a common fact, and even some of the most famous ones are sometimes experiencing an incredible amount of stage frights. According to a legend, even Marta Argerich had so much fright before a performance once that the conductor had to slap her in the face in order to break her hysterics before walking out to play Chopin. Of course, I have no proof of that, but I can easily believe in that because any performer, no matter how famous and skillful they are, sometimes is freaking out about concerts, and this is normal. But the problem is not adrenaline itself. That is rather helpful and very necessary in order to deliver really bright and vibrant performances. The problem is not knowing how to control, manage, and channel it effectively into your performances. And here, before proceeding to rather psychological tips, I would give you one practical tip. Make a habit of playing tricky pieces on stage always a bit slower than you would want. Because this is a common thing. When we get on stage, we get an adrenaline, and our perception of time, our perception of tempo changes. So we tend to play pieces much faster than in normal conditions. And one young conductor even told me a funny story that his teacher, his conducting teacher, taught him actually that if you're going to perform with the pianist Rachmaninoff's Paganini Rhapsody, then you have to always keep in mind that a tempo, pianist's tempi on the concert will be significantly faster than on the rehearsal. That's why just build a habit of being able to play your pieces slightly slower than you would want, and then listening to a recording after the concert, you will surprisingly find out that your tempi were actually perfect. I have seen many gifted musicians who practice a lot and love music which they are playing, but as soon as they get on stage, they feel miserable, vulnerable, unworthy, and stuff. Quite often it happens because of the lack of support from a teacher or parents, for example, when somebody important for you simply didn't believe in you. This goes towards psychology, where I'm no expert, unfortunately. But what I know for sure is that if you don't have a person who would deeply believe in you, in your potential, you must become that person. Because, as one clever man says, the most powerful tool for success in life is an unreasonable self-confidence. And this is essential. This self-confidence, your self-confidence, should be absolutely unreasonable, not based on any kind of reason. Because if you think that I will be practicing a lot and I will gain a certain level and this level will give me self-confidence, this is very much wrong. And we can see it on the example of some of the leading artists of all times who have a lot of stage fright. So your self-confidence should be trained separately, independently from where you are, what is your level, what you can do or can't. I know teachers, for example, who are incredibly strict during the preparation work, but before the performance, they would rather say something like, and now forget everything I told you and just be this music, enjoy yourself. And this is a great advice. But the worst thing that a teacher might do actually, and unfortunately it happens, this is a true story, is to come to a student right before a performance and tell them, you know what, on that page in this bar, don't dare you to forget to do that on this or change pedal or whatever. And this was told to a person who was brilliantly prepared and was going to deliver a fantastic performance. But because their attention was bound to some spot, they failed. And because of that failure, they also got some stage problems. So it took actually a few years to deal with it and to get rid of stage fright, frequent memory slips, and other stuff that has never happened before. Because your goal when you're on stage is to connect to a certain flow, and your mind should be as a flashlight, always enlightening next two steps. You never think about next movement. And especially you never go with your thoughts back. You never reflect on what has already happened. That's why my principle is not forgiving myself anything during the preparation stages. So when I work on a piece, I always zoom in whenever there is some problem, difficulty, or stuff. Whenever I have a run through and I make a mistake, I carefully go through what has happened and how to fix it. But when I am on stage, I forgive myself anything, any sins, any stupidest mistakes and failures. Because I've seen many situations when a player was super ready and they really wanted to show that they are able to play this piece brilliantly. But then suddenly something has happened, some memory slip or some issue somewhere in the middle. And because of that, they started to be depressed or anxious or angry with themselves. And the rest of the performance also went bad. But if they would just be able to forgive themselves their imperfection and just go on, then it would be just a very small, tiny thing that most of people would forget by the end of the performance anyway. And here we come to the most essential point of being an artist and having stage experience. Because if I would go on stage with the goal of convincing people that I'm a great pianist, or that I'm a better pianist than someone else, or because I want a career growth, or because I want to get famous or stuff, I would most probably fail. Because all these reasons are about me, and as far as you are concentrated on yourself, you have even more anxious, even more stress, and even more risk of a failure. But we people, we are terribly bad in doing things without understanding its purpose, actually. So whatever we do, we have to create our own philosophy, why we are doing this, for what we are doing, and we have to work on making this philosophy more consistent and deep. And the only purpose of stage experience and performance that works for me personally is forgetting about myself during the performance and shifting my focus of attention from myself towards music itself, towards its needs, turning myself into a servant of music. So when you perform, music is way more important than you, than what people will think about you, than whether you make mistakes or not, than whether you're perfect or not. Of course, you do everything possible in order to be able to play pieces well when you prepare, but when you're on stage, you serve music, not yourself. not your ambitions to be perfect. In other words, you exist as an artist, you exist on stage in order to praise music, but it's not music who exists for helping you being praised. And this is one of the essential things that helps me to deal with anxiety and stress. Because I had plenty of concerts where I wasn't sure whether I will reach the end of the piece at all or not, actually. Some concerts I have played after not sleeping 36 hours. Some while being very sick with a fever. Some on a short notice without a proper preparation. Some while still recovering from hand issues and not knowing whether I will be physically able to finish a piece or my hands will just fall off in the middle of the piece. And there is one rule for such situations that I always follow: as less likely is your success on stage, as more passionately you play from the first till the last note. Because after all, if you play with a great passion and sincerity, if you know precisely what you want to say musically, artistically, what kind of emotional experience you want to share and transmit, the audience will always forgive you your imperfections, because people come not for counting your mistakes, but for experience. So it's not a perfection that you should hunt, it's those moments of magic that stay deeply in people's hearts.